Actually, it's the lead play in our offense.
Double tackle, takes the defensive end if he's over him. If he's not, you drive down the first man who is inside. Fullback, you tell him, take the first man outside the offensive tackle. No one shows. Go right by them and field inside. If the YN has the linebacker taken out, that's inside. If the YN has the linebacker in, he comes all the way around. If you look at this play, what we're trying to get is a seal here and a seal here, and try to run this play in the alley.
Hey, what's up, guys? Welcome into Packers Total Access. My name is Clayton. You can check us out on Packernet.com. You can find me on Twitter at Packers_access. I'm joined alongside my good buddy Tim, live in Green Bay tonight, and we're just going to talk a little bit of Packers running game. We're going to talk some quarterback stats and some delusional Bears fans, and then we'll also hit on a little bit of Packers Saints preview, I guess you could say, a little matchup preview there. But Tim, how was your day, buddy?
Man, it was good. Great day. It's always a great day in Green Bay, man. Title town. I love living here,
Absolutely, dude. I'm jealous every day. What's the weather like right now up there?
It's a little chilly, breezy, 60s during the day. It gets a little cool at night. Fall is definitely upon us, but beautiful football weather, I'll tell you that. Hopefully it doesn't rain this weekend. Too bad for the Saints game, but there is some rain in the forecast coming up, so.
Gotcha. I tell you, man, I'm a sucker for weather games personally. Now, it's easy for me to say sitting on my couch, right? But not getting to attend the game. But man, I love weather games at Lambeau. There's just something to it. Have you been to a game out at East Green Bay High yet? Do you watch high school football much, Tim?
No, I have not. I've been meaning to get over there because it's relatively close to our house. And no, I got to get over there though. I've been over there a bunch. Just to go to on the Heritage Trail there and see City Stadium. But no, I got to get to a game. That and De Pere I want to check out as well.
It's so freaking cool that that local Green Bay high schoolers get to play on old City Stadium field. You know what I mean? I love it, dude. Love the tradition for sure. Let's go to the chat here. We got Doe Soldier in the house. We got Zane Strong, Eric Sutherland, Emilio, Larry in the house, United Bates, R Showers, AJJ, and Vahan, I guess is how you say it. Hi, everyone. Go Pack Go from California. Hey, appreciate you joining us for sure. Let's jump right into it, and we're going to be taking questions tonight, gang, here in the chat too. We may have a caller or two. Wednesday or Tuesday is usually kind of a slow night. There's no injury news, nothing like that. So we're going to kind of hit on a few topics. We may wrap up early. Some of you guys have been on a stream with me all day long. We went live and interviewed Mike Wall earlier talking about the running game. Got some really good nuggets from that conversation. We did a chalk talk, learned a lot, ready to bury that game ball finally from the Atlanta game and moving on to the Saints. So we'll just kind of hang out, talk a little ball tonight. First things first, the running game, Tim. Went live earlier with Mike Wall and just a few takeaways I got. And, every time I speak to Mike, I feel like I'm going to go in expecting one thing and come out the other side going, man, I was wrong on that, or I didn't see that coming, right? Really, there wasn't nothing that caught me off guard today. One thing that he did say, and we were talking about the running game, and more specifically that play with A.J. Dillon on 3rd and short there in the fourth quarter, where when I watched it initially, I'm basically bashing A.J. Dillon, saying, man, he's stumbling, getting to the line. It's on him, right? And then, of course, I go back and watch the tape, and I realize what happened to the offense line. And also realizing that the stumble was more of a stutter step because everything got blown up right off the bat as far as the initial gap in attacking on that running play. And Mike Wall said the same exact thing. And really what he came away with was needing to simplify things. And we heard that last year. We heard that from the quarterback, number 12, and everybody immediately bashed him, right? And said, he's selfish. He wants to call the plays. He doesn't know what he's talking about. He just hates the coach, or not necessarily hates the coach, but hates the scheme, and he's never going to make it work, all that good stuff. But, man, when he said simplify, it sounds like they're trying to do so much, and we talked about it, Tim, that first week against Chicago. all the different formations they threw at the Bears, all the different types of run. You had wide zone, you had mid zone, you had gap, you had duo, you had a little bit of counter, you had a pin and pull toss, you had all of pretty much the whole repertoire, right? And it kind of feels like they need to back off a little bit and just focus on the simplicity of the running game, especially when A.J. Dillon's in there, because I think we would both agree he's not the same type of back as our boy Aaron Jones, right?
Oh, gosh, no, not at all. And I don't think anyone ever thought that. If anything, that's what we love about them, is that they're complementary, right? Thunder and lightning. I just feel like we need a little more thunder.
Yeah, and I'm not sitting here saying that A.J. Dillon, after watching it, had a good game. That's not the case at all. But like Mike was pointing out, it's just so obvious that he's not comfortable running behind that offensive line. Now, that's one opinion, right? And I think it's a strong opinion because it's a former NFL offensive lineman. But then when you watch the tape and you see it, and then you look at the PFF grade of the offensive line and the run blocking's in the tank, right? Sooner or later, you got to call a spade, that's one thing that he pointed out to me. He said they're trying to do too much schematically in the running game. They need to ask a little less of the offensive line horizontally. And that's something that Ryan pointed out. And I always go to this because, Ryan will tell you he's not an X's and O's guy. He's not a film study guy, although he will study the film. And I think he's way, way more knowledgeable than he lets on when it comes to the game of football and understanding the ins and outs. He went and watched that Detroit game, that final game of the season. And I remember the podcast immediately following that game the next day. And as I was listening to it, he was basically saying they're expecting this offensive line to do things that's not physically possible. And that's exactly what Mike Wall was saying. And I'll just point it out real quick, and then we'll get to the chat, guys. We see you guys in here lighting it up. Appreciate you hopping along for us. I'm going to share a play here. Hopefully you can see it okay, Tim. I'll try to explain it, and then I can also I'll just try to explain it. Probably the best way to do this, okay? So this was the 3rd and short play. I know it's kind of hard to see. I'm going to drop this banner real quick. We'll bring that back up in a second. So basically on that 3rd and short play in the 4th quarter where A.J. stumbles, it was a 20 eye tight, stack right. And I think it was duo. Some people would say it's zone mid. I'm pretty sure it was duo because you had double teams set up across the line. You're trying to attack down the field. It's vertical power, right? And if you'll really key in on the left guard, and it's kind of hard to see, I tried to draw it out. But what I want you to notice is the defensive tackle, how he lined up kind of in that one tech, and he crosses the face and really tries to engage with the center. The left guard, what they were asked to do here, the left guard, Royce Newman of all people, was asked to double team the defensive tackle as he's moving to the right, which it looks like he's not as far out of place, but imagine that D tackle ending right there on the center in this illustration. And then the left guard had to turn his body completely around and try to shield off that mock that was firing in that B gap. And that's where the play design, the run was designed to go. Okay, so as A.J. Dillon gets ready to take the ball, take the handoff from Jordan Love, essentially what you got is the H-back in DeGuara having to nail the wheel backer coming off the edge. The right end crashed in, but I got to say the left tackle did a really good job getting position just to cut him off from completely blowing the play up. But when that mic fired, Royce had no shot to block the mic. And you could literally see A.J. Dillon, as soon as he gets the ball, he looks up and he sees it and he stutters. He literally chops his feet and is trying to decide, do I need to go left? Do I need to go right? Because they're blowing this play up. Now, in the process, I think it wasn't so much he tripped as it was he decided, I'm just going to try to get underneath them and reach this first down. And without even drawing this up for Mike and mentioning the play specifically, he pointed it out. And I told him, yeah, that was Royce at guard, right? If you go back and watch it, he does a great job kind of explaining his perspective on it, Mike's perspective. And he's like, you're asking me to double down here, right? Block to the next level, turn completely around, and now try to get the Mike on his heels and drive him down the field. And essentially what Mike said was, it's impossible. You're asking these guys to do too much in a run blocking game. And he went on to talk about how when he played for Mike Sherman, and he loved Mike Sherman. Mike Sherman was an offensive line coach, right? And that's why they had such a good running game in the early 2000s when Mike was there with Rivera and Cliffy and all those guys. And I think, at one point, Amon Green rushed for 2,000 yards or right at 2,000 yards, just, one of the best rushing years in the history of the Green Bay Packers, if not the best. And he said there was times they would draw stuff up on the board, coordinators would, and they'd be like, we can't do that. And he said Mike Sherman was great at saying, at understanding that and go, okay, I trust my guys. I'm going to put them in a position to win. So I think you've got a little bit of that going on. And again, I didn't come in today thinking that's what's going on, but talking to Mike, going back and watching the film again, doing chalk talk, it's pretty clear they're trying to do too much on the offensive line, man. Is that kind of how you're seeing it too as a fan watching the game? What do you think about that take? Or do you think we're off base there?
No, I think that that's spot on. And Mike is great. We get the real perspective here. Like you said, this guy did it. So I'm going to defer to Mike Wall's expertise here. And can you imagine being A.J. Dillon and getting the ball and just the first thing you see is, the Mike is winning this battle, and that's where you're going. That's where you're supposed to go with the football. Yeah. And we all know the minute, like you said, the minute A.J. Dillon shuffles his feet or chops his feet, it's going to be a bad scenario. That's what we want Aaron Jones to do. That Aaron Jones is the shifty, light on his toes running back. A.J. Dillon is supposed to be our power, north and south running back. So seeing anytime he's got to shuffle his feet, that's not a good scenario. But I mean, to the overall point, I agree. I think we've talked about LaFleur's offense as a whole wanting to have the illusion of complexity. And what actually ends up happening is it becomes complex. And it really is complex. And I agree. I think the point about, how Sherman used to kind of defer to his linemen and kind of say, hey, well, what are you guys comfortable doing? Can we push the boundaries of what your comfort level is a little bit, or what can we absolutely not do versus what can we try to do? Might be a good approach. Because, we can't complain about execution if guys are being able to do things or being asked to do things that they're not physically capable of doing, like Mike said.
Yeah, and you're putting them in a position to fail, essentially. He said at other places, not in Green Bay, that they would come in and they'd say, okay, here's how we're drawing it up, and they would draw it up on the board. And an offensive lineman would raise their hand and say, hey, we can't do that. Like, I can't get to that spot. And because they see it on the board, and in modern terms, because it happens on Madden, right, then yes, you can make it happen. You can do it. And he said then we would get in there and the play would get blown up, and they're looking at us going, hey, why didn't you get to your guy? I told you I couldn't get to the guy. Like, I don't know what you expect. So it was just
an opposing team is going to see that too. That defense is going to see that. They're going to look at that line and go, hey, man, they can't get over, or they're not getting off. Mm-hmm. We can run this all day, and they're not going to block the mic on this play. So it's like, I mean, if we see it, I'm 99.9% sure the opposing D is seeing that too.
Yeah, definitely. Let's go to before we go to the chat, guys, we're getting ready to key it up, and then we'll get into the next topic. Another thing he said too, Tim, I asked him this. I said, all right, it's obvious Elgton Jenkins is going to be out for at least a few weeks, maybe more, right? So let's assume he's going to be out for a minimum of 3 to 4 weeks. Who would you put at left guard? Not who are they going to put at left guard. Who would Mike Wall put at left guard? And he said, they played Royce there, and he kind of, danced around that a bit. And he said, if it were me, if you're asking me, I would put Rasheed Walker at left guard if Bach's healthy. He said, you put Rasheed Walker at left guard, he said, because he's got great feet. When Mike Wall says an offensive lineman has good feet, and he'll be his whole stance, Tim, is you win with technique. You win with the fundamentals, the basics. If you don't have good footwork, I don't care how strong you are. I don't care how fast you are. I don't care how good your punch is. If you've got crappy feet, you're going to get beat in the NFL. I didn't mean to rhyme, but I do it all the time. Okay. But that's what he said. And literally, as he said that, I'm going, imagine Rasheed Walker at left guard next to our boy, David Bakhtiari. If indeed Bach's knee, the swelling goes down, I think that's a pretty stout pass blocking combination there too. So if LaFleur does take a step back, let's simplify the running game a little bit. You've got Rashid filling in for Elton. I'm not saying it's an upgrade. I'm not saying it's nowhere near an upgrade over Elton. Please don't take that the wrong way. But when you think of Rashid Walker over Royce Newman, that sounds a lot better to me on the surface. What do you think?
I agree. And it should go hand in hand with what we're doing as an entire team, which is it's the youth movement, right? Let the kids play. We've been saying this, since the off season. So I agree. And, we all know what we're getting with Newman. So yeah. And, Mike's absolutely right, but I don't think it takes a NFL veteran to make that observation. We can all surmise that. Yeah, I would agree. Now that, of course, is, we have the asterisk, is Bach going to be at left tackle? If he is, then Rashid Walker makes sense at left guard. If we need Rashid Walker at left tackle, then we have to, adjust the other way, and we have to ask ourselves other questions. Now who goes to left guard if Walker's at left tackle?
Yeah, that's where it gets real shaky real quick. But we both unanimously agreed, leave Tom at right tackle. He raved over Tom's. He said, we talked about on this show last year. We talked about his footwork, right? He always goes back to the footwork. And now he put on a little bit of weight. He said he's definitely cracking on the plus side of 300 pounds now. He's got enough bulk that he's handling his own. He really liked him at right tackle. That was exciting for me because, Tom is so young and he's so cheap right now. But like, a former NFL player would be quick to say, hey, look, let's get him a contract sooner than later, right? Let's get him paid because he's that good. So I thought that was a really cool comment as well. Here in the chat, R Shower says, we staying at Tim's for the draft. I'm sure we'd bring the libations. Now, Mike Hebring, I ain't going to ask you to give us an answer there, Tim. Just sleep on it. All right? Mike Hebring in the chat said Tennessee has led the league in rush D the past couple years. What do they have or do different than the Packers? I'm going to dive into that for you, Mike, not tonight because I want time to look at the tape. Hopefully I can find time to do that. It's with all these guests and stuff that we've got lined up, it's going to be difficult, but I think we can at least do a little bit of digging. On the surface, who's their head coach?
Yeah, that's my first reaction. Mike Vrabel is, you got a defensive-minded head coach right there. So That would be my, initial reaction to that.
Yeah, and your teams take on the identity of your head coach. That's the way it works. Why does Justin Fields look like cheeks right now? He's got a defensive coordinator as a head coach. I'm just saying, right? Why is Jordan Love leading the league in touchdown passes with no interceptions?
Because we have the quarterback whisperer as a head coach.
There you go. And that typically that hire is a direct reflection of ownership / management / whatever you want to call the Green Bay Packers board of directors and saying, here's the direction we want our team to go, right? We want to be an offensive-minded team. We want to be a defensive-minded team. Now, some of them, maybe they don't put as much thought into it. Some of these billionaires, when they go to hire a GM that's going to hire a head coach. But if they got the right people in place, those are kind of the trends you're looking for. You're looking to make those decisions. But, Mike, on the surface, that's the first thing that comes to mind. Schematically, I would like to dig into that. And like our Shower says in the chat, they've got Simmons, who is an ultra beast.
Mm-hmm.
Right, so look at this. We got Robert Allen. Says, hello from the Philippines, 8M. I don't know if that's 8 a.m. maybe. Ben Fennell been talking about Gary's soft edge and Jair drop-off for a couple years. Hard not to notice. I love both those players. I think they're great players. I think they've been great players in the past. It's one game, but everything that you said, if Ben Fennell said that, I'm telling you, if you go back and watch my Chalk Talk, I think it was 3 plays that I outlined where, unfortunately, Gary did have a very soft edge. He broke contain on read options. And then, of course, Jair had one of the worst games I've ever seen him play as a Green Bay Packer. Now, with all that being said, you point that out and say, okay, if 2 of our best defenders had a bad game and we still lost by only 1 point, that's pretty encouraging. What do you think, Tim? We played a pretty bad game there, offensively in the first quarter, right? Defensively in the second half, and we still only lost by 1 point on the road to what I think the majority of people would agree is a better football team. But what do you think, man?
I agree with that, and I think that this is going to go a long way for the Packers and this young team learning how to play with a lead. they didn't have to play from behind until there was 58 seconds left in that game. So if anything, the lesson that we should be trying to learn here is how, we build a lead. How do we protect that lead? And we can talk about the offense and the defense and who, like our initial reactions are always to try and point the finger and find the blame, place the blame somewhere. Well, that's great, but the blame is on everyone. So, we had an offense that wasn't converting and we had a defense that couldn't stop a runny nose. So what does that leave you? That leaves you blowing a multi-score lead and losing by a point on the road. So it's encouraging in a sense, yes, like, God, we played that bad and we didn't get boat raced. But I mean, it's still just as disheartening to lose that way. I mean, we talked about that in the post game, that's what made it so heartbreaking. But sometimes the biggest heartbreaks teach you the biggest lessons in life and in football. So hopefully the young boys learn this time.
And, with Rashawn Gary's response and what was being reported in the locker room, how each position group was huddled up and they weren't in a hurry to get out of there. They wanted to talk about it. They wanted to talk about changing things moving forward and what went right, what went wrong. That's a great sign for a young football team that it matters to them, right? They know one got away from them. There's no doubt in my mind. And I just love how they're rallying together. And you got LaFleur being snippy with the media, like everyone is like, this is not acceptable. And that's definitely the attitude you want with your football team. We got Dead Fish in the house. R. Shower says, Edgar is still one of my all-time favorite Packers. I'm assuming he's talking about Edgar Bennett.
Oh, man, was he fun to watch.
God, he was great. Him and Dorsey Levens. Was it Dorsey Levens that made the catch on the wheel route in the corner of the end zone in the NFC Championship against the Panthers? Am I thinking right? That famous picture or famous footage of him going up, grabbing it, and literally just becoming stiff as a board, making sure his feet got in bounds and just kind of let the defender.
I'm pretty sure that was, yeah.
I think that was
number 25, yeah.
And Edgar Bennett and Dorsey Levens, man, a lot of fun watching those guys for sure. Let's see here. We got Mark in the chat says Mike Sherman was an offensive genius. That was the run and gun days, man. I'll tell you what, he just kept things simple, and sometimes simple is the way to go. It's like Mike Wall said on a previous conversation we had. We would run power, and he named the specific power play. He said, well, I bet we ran it 9 times in a row. And just like, they ain't stopping it, keep running it.
Yeah, right? Absolutely. If it ain't broke, don't fix it.
Yeah, no doubt. And then, of course, the number one Packer fan, man, can Green Bay hit Mike Wall hire Mike Wall as a consultant, please, LOL. He does a lot of stuff that people don't know about, not with the Packers, but with Process to Perform. Working with several, and it's not my place to talk about it. He could talk about it, but working with several very successful offensive linemen in today's game. Also some stuff with the youth, chasing the kids all around with them playing sports. He's a busy guy. And, man, it's so crazy, too, because when I ask him to come on the show, it's just like immediate response. Yeah, man, what do you need? And I just love that about him, man. You could just tell he loves football. It's something that's always going to be a part of his life. He's always going to be passionate about, for sure. Let's see here. What else we got in the chat? Emilio said, sometimes we just need to go old school and just man up the dude across from you. It sounds so simple, Emilio, but it's exactly what I was thinking talking to Mike is like in that play with A.J. Dillon, rather than trying to get – and it's what he said, well, let's stop trying to get cute here and try to make these schemes more difficult than they need to be. He's like, that's the same vibe I got, Emilio. If you run that play back again, I'm going to show it one more time here, and I know it's hard to see, but I want you to really key in. I'm going to tag that real quick. I think I got it. Oh, maybe not. Let's see here. All right. If you really key in, imagine that left guard, right? The center just focuses on the D tackle, and the left guard just goes to the next level and smacks that mock. You've got a first down, right? I mean, there's no problem there. But you tried to get cute with the double team and then work your way around. What they weren't anticipating is that D tackle in the one tech or what could have been a 2-eye. They weren't expecting him to try to cross the face of the center, right?
Right.
Of course, they were firing the wheel and the mock pretty freely as soon as they seen run. And hindsight's 20/20, but yeah, if you just line up there and go, you know what, H, don't even worry about the edge. Left tackle get to that wheel. H just kind of seal off the outside as you go to the hole. Left guard attack the mock. Center manhandle the D tackle. Let's just blow them off the freaking ball and pick up this first down. And it just didn't happen. And like Emilio's saying, it's something that simple. probably the right way to go. So I hope they do simplify things. And again, I know Aaron got crucified for mentioning it last year, but it's so true. When I asked Mike, I said, do you think that's what Aaron was talking about last year? It was a long-winded answer because I think he was trying to think it through as he's answering it and make sure he wasn't. But at the end of it, it was, that's probably what he was talking about. You're just trying to do too much. You're trying to do too much. So love it. All right, Mike Hebring in the chat says AJ is a gap scheme back, not a wide zone back. It never was a good fit. Completely agree, and that falls on Goody. Love AJ Dillon, love everything about him. I think he's got a lot of talent for the right scheme, maybe a Derrick Henry type scheme. But it's exactly what Mike said too. He's like, you've got AJ Dillon. He said, I think AJ Dillon's a good back, but he's not Aaron Jones, right? They do two totally different things. And he said, you're expecting AJ. He pointed this out, Tim, and I'm sure you remember. He said, the first couple of plays, what did we see? We seen them trying to get him on the edge and running pitch plays, toss plays to him. He said, that's not AJ Dillon, right?
The only toss that worked was that direct toss right up the gut. I think he did hit the A gap, or maybe it was. I'm trying to remember what play that was, but that one was a chunk run because he had some legs behind him, had his momentum, and just hit this hole and go. And it's tough to watch the wide zone and off the edge stuff with him sometimes. I mean, every once in a while he'll break one off, but I mean, not with any real consistency.
Yeah, definitely. R Showers in the chat said, I agree. They don't use AJ the right way. He is for sure worth having. That's how the conversation started with Mike. Was I said, there's a lot of people, myself included, you watch the tape and you see AJ stuttering, you see him stumbling, and it's just like, man, is AJ playing that bad? Is it the blocking? Is it the scheme? And you could see he kind of perked up as he went to answer. He went to bat for AJ like, no, they're trying to do too much, and it's not playing into what their strength is. For sure. So Emilio said Tom was practicing snapping during pregame. That's interesting. That's very interesting. That's the thing, too. You got the injury to Elton Jenkins. There's been talks. We talked about it. Is Josh Myers a liability? And he kind of defended Josh Myers, too. He didn't say Josh Myers is playing good. But, again, he's kind of pointing out that they're not playing to their offensive line strengths and they're making things too complicated. He pointed out a couple specific plays there, too. This may be the time or this may be the season that maybe Coach LaFleur kind of actually, comes to that realization, hey, I got a young team, a lot of new faces. Maybe we need to simplify a little bit, because I'm sure even a simplified Matt LaFleur offense is still going to be complex in its own way. So, I mean, maybe he does, not to sound, like a jerk, but like maybe if he just dials it back a little, dial it down just a click or two and see if we can find some success. Yeah, for sure. Mark in the chat says we need a Tom clone for left tackle. Hey man, if you could find those growing on trees, get us a couple more. As a matter of fact, let's try to find 4 more, and when Bach leaves, we're good to go, right?
Right.
So you find those sitting around, make sure you pick those up. I'll pay you back later.
Yeah, we want a 22, 23, and 24-year-old, please. That would be great. Thank you.
We got Connor Jansen in the chat. This is a great question. Do you think AJ would be good to be used more at fullback instead of DeGuara? He seems to be a better blocker than him, and we did some of that last year. I'm not disagreeing with you that AJ could be a better blocker than DeGuara, but I don't think that's saying much. I don't mean to be mean, but DeGuara did have a nice block in that game on a play action pass. I will say that a play action sift, but I just don't see AJ Dillon as a blocking back. I haven't seen it, and I'm not saying I'm right and he can't be. I just haven't seen it on tape, and the grades would kind of back that up too if indeed you do like PFF, or at least use it as another reference like we do. All right, let's see here. Daniel in the chat said, let's be honest, Arthur Smith has designed a very nice run game that puts defenders in tough angles to make tackles. We flowed too fast, and Bijan was able to cut. That's the other thing that I think a lot of people were missing as far as their scheme. There was a ton of cutback, and it wasn't necessarily wide zone as much as it was wide-ish. It's like they were shooting for the B gap and then cutting back A, They were definitely looking for the cutback. And I'm telling you, man, Bijan he's a stud. And there's some people trying to downplay that, Tim, like, oh, no. If he's that good, he'd be doing it against other teams. You watch. If he stays healthy, Watch what he does this year. That dude, I'm telling you, man, he was, in my opinion, he was probably, I know he was at least top 3 in this last draft, players overall, as far as overall talent. It's just running back the value is so diminished in today's game. That's the thing. Daniel in the chat also said it's hard and flow and stay a half a man behind when you don't have visual on the ball because of play design angles, and then the ball carrier just shows up at nowhere and quick hits. It's very true. Very true. There is a little bit of that deceptiveness, I guess you could say, in that Atlanta running game for sure. All right, let's do this. Before we get into the next topic, which is going to be on some quarterback stats, and I'm kind of excited about this. I've seen a delusional Bears fan online, and I thought we would
just one, only one.
Well, he was out there floating in the ocean by himself at this specific moment. Didn't see too many takers back in what he was saying, but I was just like, man, how can you be that delusional? But before we do that, we do want to say that today's show is brought to you by Old Southern Barbecue Smokehouse. They've got 5 locations in Rice Lake, Hudson, Arden Hills, Minneapolis, and Shakopee. If you're there around those areas, you can go in-house and eat. They've got awesome barbecue, awesome sides, the whole 9 yards. Also, if you're looking to have people over for a Packer party, you're getting some people together to watch the game, whether it's the Packers, Monday Night Football, Sunday Night Football, whatever, you don't want to cook, and you want to have some awesome food brought in, you can check out their catering menu and give them a call for that, and they'll take care of all that hassle for you. Also, if you're at a distance like me, you can check out their website at www.oldsouthernbbq.com. Again, that's oldsouthernbarbecue.com. You can get everything you need to do your own grilling, your own smoking right there at the house. They've got 4 awesome sauces: Southern Gals, Rich and Smoky, Mild and Tangy, and Chicago Fire. They've also got award-winning rubs that you can have for pretty much anything, but more specifically brisket and ribs. Awesome products there. And if you go check out their website, you'll see that they've also got bundles put together to make it more affordable at oldsouthernbbq.com. Just make sure you enter the promo code PACKERNET15. That's capital P, Packer, capital N, net, no spaces, 15, and that'll get you 15% off your order. Again, that's Old Southern Barbecue Smokehouse at oldsouthernbbq.com. Appreciate them supporting the show. All right, this next segment here, Tim, boy, it was interesting, bub. It was real interesting. I get online, and I can't remember who it was that tagged me. You may see who it was when I share this tweet, but this was the tweet that the Bears fan shared, okay? Let's see here. So it was actually at 11. So he tweeted, puts quarterbacks who are still worse than Justin Fields. So he's saying that Justin Fields is better than these quarterbacks: Bryce Young, Kenny Pickett, Jordan Love, Desmond Ridder, Daniel Jones, Anthony Richardson, who's played 2 games, right? And Ryan Tannehill. All right. And I seen that and I thought, how delusional do you have to be?
I'm trying to see, is he better than any of these guys on that?
Yeah, I'm going to keep that up for you a second. I'm going to pull up some stats here, all right? And
well, maybe Daniel Jones. I mean, I don't know.
Sometimes, right? Sometimes.
Yeah, sometimes. Depends on the day.
Yeah. So I thought, you know what? Maybe I haven't paid close enough attention to Justin Fields, because I'm definitely not one of those fans that likes to trash talk. I don't go digging for this stuff. When someone tags me in it and I see it, it got a real good pop out of me, Tim. It really did.
Yeah.
So I went to the statistics and said, let's look at this real quick. Let's just kind of see, all right, what's the deal here? Let's start with the great adjusted QBR, okay? Sorted by adjusted QBR, okay? Brock Purdy is in first place, number 1 in the entire league at 86.6. Guys, the last pick in the draft. How exciting is that? I mean, I hate the 49ers with a passion. I don't want to say I hate their fans. I love rooting against the 49ers. I don't hate anybody. That's a lie, but we'll pretend like it's true. So Brock Purdy, the last pick in the draft, is leading the entire National Football League in adjusted QBR, okay, at 86.6. Second is Dak Prescott at 83.2. All right. We got Emilio calling in here, I believe. We'll get you here in just a second, Emilio. We got Dak Prescott at 83.2. Tua Tagovailoa at 78.3. And then number 4, guys, in adjusted QBR, Jordan Love at 75.5. Top 5 in adjusted QBR. So let's just compare Jordan Love and Justin Fields. Forget the other ones you mentioned for a second. Tim, ask me where Justin Fields is on this list.
It's got to be bottom 5 at least.
You will find him. They only rank the I think there's a minimum amount of snaps to qualify for this ranking. So they've got 32, right? So basically all 32 teams. It sounds like the starters, the ones who've seen significant time. Justin Fields is 31st at 22.2, Tim. So in that Bears fans' defense, Kenny Pickett is worse. So I guess in that case, he is better than Kenny Pickett, one quarterback on that list. So now let's move on to.
Wait a second. I'm just looking at the fact that 403 idiots actually like that tweet.
Yeah, where are they at? Right?
Where are y'all at right now?
I'm going to share the screen here real quick before we go to Emilio. I want you probably won't be able to see it, but if you can, it might help a little bit. I want you to see these stats that I'm looking at. It's probably going to be fuzzy. I apologize. I'm going to read it off to you guys. So that was QBR, right? Adjusted QBR. Now let's look at the passer rating. Let's sort by it, okay? Passer rating. Guess who's number 1 in the league, Tim?
That would be man. Would that be Jay Money?
That is Jay Money. That is Jay Love. He's got a passer rating of 118.8, tops in the league. Now, listen, guys, this is why statistics, it's important to put things into context. Jordan Love's completion percentage is hot doo-doo, okay? There's no denying it, 55.8. And we've talked about it. You've heard me talk about it on the post-game show that the accuracy has got to come. They've got to get the accuracy down because it's going to end up it's going to eventually bottom, right? Now, you can look at it and say, okay, that's just a number. Did he throw behind a defender or behind a receiver on purpose? That definitely could be the case, right? There could be times where there's an intentional incompletion because the play was broken and you just kind of live to play another day. Absolutely. But the 55.8 it's unacceptable for a starting quarterback. But man, that rating, oh my gosh, 118.8. 4th in adjusted QBR and 1st in rating, right? Now let's see where boy Justin Fields is. Let's go way down here in the basement. 26th. He's 26th with a 70.7. Okay. Now there's still Bear fans going, well, that's just adjusted QBR and that's passer rating. What does it matter? That doesn't mean anything. Okay. What about taking sacks? What about someone who doesn't know how to throw the ball away, right? Let's see who's taken the most sacks in the league. Hark. Justin Fields is tied for 2nd with 10 sacks he's already taken this year. And some people will say, well, that means he's got a bad offensive line. No, you can throw the ball away. There's not a play design 1 where a coach is screaming, take the sack. It's read 1, read 2, get rid of the ball or throw it away.
And you know what? He's probably getting those sacks because he's trying to run.
Absolutely.
He's trying to run, and he's not. And those are the times he's not getting out or not getting free.
Yeah, he thinks he can cut the corner, and next thing you know, you got a Lucas Van Ness sitting there licking his chops, and it's over. That's exactly what it is. So you may be saying, okay, well, that's just sacks. That's just adjusted, QBR. That's just passer rating, right? Got it. Let's see who's leading the league in interceptions, shall we? So right now, leading the league in interceptions is Zach Wilson with 4. Okay, surprise, surprise. Next is Ryan Tannehill with 3, Jimmy Garoppolo with 3. But actually, there's several people with 3 that are tied for 2nd place with the most interceptions in the league. And one of those players is Justin Fields. So he's tied for 2nd in interceptions. And again, he was tied for 2nd in sacks taken. Okay. And he's in the basement for adjusted QBR and passer rate. Like, how many more statistics do we need to look at here to determine? Okay, yeah, he's doo-doo. I thought that was interesting, and just wanted to kind of look into that a little bit, man. And I know we've got Emilio on the line here. Emilio, how you doing, man?
I'm good. How are you, fellas?
Oh, we're good. We're just over here laughing at our boy Justin Fields a little. It ain't even his fault. There's people putting unrealistic expectations on a guy who has shown nothing. But what did you think of those numbers there, Emilio?
Well, first off, I just want to wish you a happy birthday.
Lord, she did it, didn't she?
She spilled the beans. But it's all right, Clayton, because mine's coming up on Sunday, so we'll
Is
have
it really?
Yeah, we'll have a cold one together. But yeah, no, those numbers are just a telltale sign.
Yeah, no doubt. What he's referring to here in the super chat, my wife Mandy Bailey. Hey, appreciate the $5, girl. That's awesome. Heck yeah, dude. That's what I'm talking about. Yeah, thank you for spilling the beans. It's funny, Tim. What did I tell you and Jacob last night?
We weren't going to talk about it on the air.
God, I hate that girl. That's oh man. All right, Amelia.
At least she gave you $5 though. That's love right there. I love it.
Tim, do you think for a second she doesn't have my card in that?
Yeah, you gave yourself $5.
Full circle.
Full circle. You know that's what happened. Absolutely. I told y'all her motto around here is what's yours is mine and what's mine is ours. That's what she says all the time. So, Emilio, what do you got, buddy? What's on your mind, Packers wise?
Honestly, it was great to see him in person. The team played well. It was a roller coaster of a game. I mean, I was up and down the whole time, just screaming. So, seeing them, they're quick for being young, but they were getting gassed out there. I mean, the third and the fourth started off okay, but you could just tell it was. I mean, we had the crowd taken care of pretty much through the third, and then after that, it just. I mean, it started humming in there. Your ears were ringing, and it wasn't even like you were talking about before. It wasn't even completely packed. But they had it, and they could have kept the crowd out of it and kept them cruising, but it just it slipped away. It was just those the young mistakes, the silly mistakes, things like that.
Got it. Yeah, and Tim, that's kind of how it felt watching it on TV, right? I mean, like they were loud at first. You messaged me, Emilio. I believe it was you. There was a guy named 1265 is what he goes by on Twitter. He's sending me some pictures from his seats. Had like a half a dozen people message me, and they were like, it's loud in here, right? And then it got quiet, didn't it, Tim? You could even tell on TV. It got real quiet real quick.
It sure did. And you know what, though, to Emilio's point is it was up and down, though, because I found myself just when I was feeling like, oh, man, we got this, like, within minutes, it's like, we don't, what was that? What was that? And you could just, that's that eerie feeling late in the game when you're winning, but you're not, it's like you can almost anticipate it coming. And it's like watching one of them big cruise ships pulling into the dock, and he's going to smack into the dock. It's coming, and there's not much you can do about it but stand there and watch it. And that's kind of like what we saw on Sunday.
Yeah, no doubt, man. And once we stalled out that second drive in the fourth quarter, Emilio, that's when I was like, yeah, this one doesn't feel like it's going to end well.
Yeah.
Is that kind of the vibe you got in house?
Yeah. It started getting real quiet, and I mean, we were just the fans there were just trying to hang on to anything like positive that we were getting out of it. But what was it, 11 yards or something? And the fourth, it was, what can we get behind? A big tackle here or there, every third, every fourth. It felt like they just marched it right down the field, and you just saw them kept getting closer. And then when they went forward and all that, so it was deteriorating for sure. But I mean, the walk out of there, they were all right. Shaking hands, saying it was a good game and all that. So that was cool. But I mean, if hey, we might see him again. We might see him again down there. So. You never know with them 2-0 in the South. So,
yeah, no doubt. And Atlanta is a good sports town. We've been down for several Braves games and stuff. And of course, I would always wear Braves gear, but it just seems I never seen any Atlanta fans at any sport being rude to away fans. And it's different down there. That's why when I hear about the stories in the Northeast, I'm like, boy, somebody come down here to a ball game after
hear about what happened in Miami.
Yeah,
exactly. With in New England, where the Miami fan beat a New England Patriot fan to death, like that's.
Oh yeah, that was New England. Sorry, yeah, the Miami fan did that. Yeah. Like,
and Emilio, down here in the South, if somebody tries that, dude, what happens?
It's not happening. It's a bad idea.
Yeah, you are not making it out of that stadium alive, man.
No, Roadhouse.
Let me hit you with one of those real quick. It's been a minute.
Roadhouse.
That's the one. Nostalgic in the chat said, "Can we break down the Justin Fields all 22 versus the Bucks? I just want to giggle." It was bad, man. It was real bad. Did you get a chance to see any of that, Tim?
A little bit. I saw a couple interesting memes too from his performance in that game.
It was ugly, man. Ugly. Emilio,
How
you
demoralizing to be a receiver like in that off. Like, you get open and you just know the ball. It's not coming. It's not coming.
Because you didn't get open on the screen game, Tim. That was the problem.
Yeah, right.
Yeah, once they took the screen game away, it's over, right? I did see that play where the defensive lineman was just like, "Hey, why are we even rushing him, man? Just let him try to throw it." Right? That's what we need. That's what we want. So here's a cool comment. And Emilio, if you have to go, you jump off anytime, but you can hang out with us unless we get another call, man. Whatever you want to do. Cool. Ryan Henson in the chat said, missed the beginning of the show, but have you talked about Quay's performance through 2 weeks? Finally starting to feel like he has, quote, it at middle linebacker, even after the loss. I could not agree more. And I'm telling you, I know I'm not as excited as Tim is, but I am very, very excited. That is definitely Tim's guy. Let's start with Emilio with that question. Then I work my way up to you, Tim. Emilio, in person, did it feel like Quay popped as much as it looked like he did on TV? I mean, that guy was everywhere. I know he had the drop pick, and we talked about it, and it was a crucial play that didn't go our way. But other than that, I mean, he played pretty lights out, right?
I mean, I think so. I think they're putting, just about all the trust in him to try to, take the reins and lead this. I mean, he was back and forth. He was flying all over the place. The thing was, they ran 70 plays. So, I mean, he was still hustling to the last. He was out there, grinding and hitting everyone. It was tough to, see it not all come together there. I mean, he was moving, but it was just not enough to, to bring it home.
Right. Yeah. The other thing too, Tim, like going up, we watched it on Chalk Talk earlier, me and Jacob. Dude, his vertical leap, I don't know what it was at the combine, but he kind of out jumped that ball and it hit him in the face, that dropped interception. But that dude's got some hops, man. But how are you feeling about your boy Quay this early in the season?
No, I agree. I think the quote it factor is there, and I hate to say I told you so, but I did. I told you so. Future defensive player of the year candidate. That's my boy Quay Walker, and yeah, he's a freak athlete, man. I mean, even the pick six, I joked about, like, man, that guy could play tight end in a pinch if we really needed him to. And I pray for the guy that he's blocking coming around the edge. But Quay's just a really athletic dude. And I think, like, to your point, yeah, maybe I don't even think he needed to jump for that one. And maybe that's what kind of messed up the timing in his hands. By the time he got his hands back down into position, the ball just hit him in the face mask. It happens that's probably not a tight end or a receiver. Same thing with Jair. The reason guys become corners at different stages of their careers, most of them are receivers who can't, and they end up playing DB. But Quay is, I cannot wait. I'm glad that the concussion was minor apparently, and it was just protocol precautionary, and that wasn't serious. Hopefully he stays healthy like this, and we get a full season out of him. But I'm really looking forward to what we're going to be saying at the end of the year about Quay Walker, and I think it's going to be a lot of positive things, especially when you compare it to last year, because I thought he had a great rookie season that was overshadowed by a lot of extracurricular things and things that didn't necessarily have to do too much with football. But he shored that up going into this year, and it shows out there on the field. He's staying home when he needs to stay home, and he's attacking when he needs to attack. And every single time we've had a skirmish or a fight or anything from preseason up until this point in the season, Quay has been out of it, involved, keeping his nose clean, which is something we as fans were concerned about with him going into the year. So mentally, physically, it's all there. To Emilio's point, you just gotta put it all together now consistently.
Yeah. Right. And to one more point there, I mean, they're always flipping Quay and Dre, all the time. Obviously, when it was Dre 10 yards off on Bijan, we would have wanted Quay there, but they trust Quay in the middle to, rally this team and bring it around him. He's the heartbeat back there. So, I mean, I think that's where they're driving at with this.
Definitely. And, one thing that stood out to me, Emilio, you may have noticed it as well. I think it wasn't the drop. It might've been the dropped interception. I can't remember which play it was, but to the best of my knowledge, I seen them run dime one time, and it was because it was a 3rd and long. They were in 11 personnel. We matched it with a dime, which is basically saying, look, you're going to have to pass. We're going to put 6 DBs in. So they went with a 2-3-6. Okay. So 2 down defensive linemen, 2 outside linebackers, and 1 inside linebacker. They took Dre off the field, and Quay Walker was the only linebacker on the field playing coverage, right? And that really says a lot. That with the green dot, right?
Right. Yep. That's exactly it. Because I remember seeing Dre come off, and it's like, man, they really do trust him. He's coming off in a tough. I think it was second or third maybe, but I mean, they have the confidence in him, and it's exciting to see. And I'm pretty sure I haven't been able to rewatch it, but the one time that I saw him run cover 1 man, single high safety, was the one time we got a defensive hold when they ran like a quick out because we were all bump and run man, and like that was the one time I remember. I was sitting there saying, I was like, oh, they're in cover 1, and then bam, right. It's like, of course, the one time we're running man, we get a hold, and like it was tough, but
yeah. It's a whole different ballgame in man coverage, and people just like to pretend like, oh, let's just run man. The Devondre Campbell play where he was split out on Bijan Robinson and they just hammered that underneath route. That was because of man coverage. They had no choice. They're in man. Now, if you want to say they call a timeout, I get it. Probably should have called a timeout. Joe Barry doesn't call timeouts. That's on Coach LaFleur. But I'll tell you, man, it was tough because I'm not a big man coverage person. I personally like zone. I like zone match. I think it's great. I think there's been so many teams that have won championships playing zone match. That seems to be too high when it warrants it. You can spin down with 3, which we did a lot of that on Sunday. But I've got Quay Walker's card pulled up here. I know it's hard to see, like Deb Fish was saying in the chat. I apologize. There's nothing I can do to enlarge it anymore. But I'm going to read off what his PFF grade is here real quick. Defensive grade 88.8. He's the 3rd highest graded linebacker in the entire National Football League. Out of 79 linebackers, he's 3rd. And his coverage grade 90.6. He has the highest coverage grade of any linebacker in the NFL. Pass rush grade 63.8. That's 19th. And then of course, run defense grade 38th. Although his tackling has been really good, the run defense is just saying he's not really. I think those are more of grades of how gap sound he is, and you could see that last year. That was one of his weaknesses for sure. So I think you got a huge ceiling there, a very high ceiling when it comes to Quay Walker. I'm going to go ahead and pop this up here real quick. Tim, this is the matchup, okay? PFF matchup. I know it's hard for you guys to read. I'm going to try to read off and just point out. What I'm going to do is point out what I feel like are the strengths, okay? This is the 11 personnel offense for the Saints this week, okay? The big thing that stands out to me, man, they have a wide receiver core. My goodness. Chris Olave, 83.6 on the year, and Shaheed at 80.9. So they have the 6th highest graded wide receiver in the league and the 7th highest graded wide receiver in the league. Oh, and that's not even mentioning Michael Thomas, who's grading out at a 69.0. So essentially what you've got there, according to PFF and the grades of an extremely short season, and again, we're not saying PFF is everything, you've got 2 number 1 caliber wide receivers, and your 3rd best wide receiver happens to be your true number 1, if that makes sense, and he grades out as a number 2 wide receiver. That seems to be the strength on offense there. Tim, what do you think about this? Now, the glaring negative for them, right guard, right, Ruiz, 33.2. That seems to be the soft spot. Left tackle, 48.3. Left guard, 59.7. You got Derek Carr back there. And then, of course, they're showing Jamal Williams as the halfback. But if I'm understanding correctly, he's probably going to miss Sunday's game. So that helps the Packers a bit too. I know we love Maul a ton, but glad he's not going to be playing if that's the case for sure. But what do you think about that offense there and that wide receiver core, man?
I'll tell you, the thing that stands out to me alarmingly is like Keyshawn on Olave in the slot is just going to be an absolute nightmare to watch. I don't know about you, but that was the first thing, just matchup wise, that's a concern, man. That's a concern because Keyshawn has not looked. And I'm not going to dog Keyshawn because I think we talk about dynamic athletes. I'm not going to take anything away from him, but clearly the value that he brings to our team is not as a slot defender.
Right.
It's not.
Yeah.
So I don't know if do we see Carrington Valentine peppered in at some point?
My answer to that. I would love to see that. Emilio, what do you think about that, man? How do you feel about Keyshawn in the slot? And I know it's hard to pick up on stuff when you're live there in person, in a game. You got so much going on around you. But just out of 2 games here so far, how do you feel about Keyshawn in the slot, man?
At first take, I haven't been able to go back and watch it, but I was more unhappy with Keyshawn than I was happy with him when I was watching it live. Mm-hmm. But that might just be a little biased. But he's a great athlete, and it just seems like it's always just like a second behind or a step off or something like that. That it's just there's something missing there. But it is he's there. He's an athlete, but I think he is missing something in that slot position.
Yeah, I was excited about the experiment. I thought he played pretty decent last year. I remember he had an interception, a game-sealing interception playing the slot there. But it just doesn't seem to have worked out. And you've got Carrington Valentine, who's shown, in my opinion, he at least deserves a shot. And who knows, maybe by doing that, Keyshawn Nixon, his return game improves, a little closer to what we had last year too. There's all things that could be potentially happening for sure.
Right.
But all right, with that being said, let me go ahead and remove that real quick.
It's not that he would be coming like off the field completely. You still would go into some of those dime looks where we would need, 2 of them on and things like that. So it's not like he'd be off forever, but maybe it lights a fire under him, or there's a battle there, something like that where they're both, getting after each other.
Yeah, absolutely. And that's the thing. Competition is so underrated, man. These teams, there's, this is our starting, whatever. It's like, why? You should always be looking for the next better player, right? There should always be a competition. I understand you don't want to steal reps from your starting unit, but this whole just anointing people the starter, unless they're, a quote unquote great football player, I think every player in the National Football League is good. And there should be, more battles than not. And I think the great teams in the past, they've had position battles. There's no doubt about that. One thing that popped up here in the chat is we're kind of talking about the defense. Manny Diaz or Diaz in the chat said, is LVN out this week? Lucas Van Ness, is he out this week? We don't know yet, Manny. The injury report will drop tomorrow. We'll get a little bit better understanding. It was my understanding it was an elbow injury. But Tim, unless you've heard something, they've been pretty hush-hush on that, haven't they?
Everything I've heard was elbow. When I saw it live, it looked like shoulder, but everything that we're hearing, but again, this could be all speculatory, but it's something elbow related. It makes me think, I don't know what he did, if he bent it backwards. I remember, Rashawn had that, was that 2 years ago, where he kind of hyperextended his elbow late in the season, and it looked worse than it ended up being. So I don't know. I guess we'll know injury report tomorrow, hopefully.
No. Well, I appreciate everybody giving the birthday wishes in the chat. You guys are awesome. Really, I'm not going to comment on all of them, but thank you guys so much. I appreciate that. Here's an interesting comment from Packer Up. And Emilio, I want you to be honest, man. He said the Falcons are probably still pumping crowd noise in like they did back in the 2010s. LOL. Do you think there was any of that going on, or was it really the fans being that loud, man?
Can't say for sure. It felt like it was the fans. They had that little, fake decibel meter on the screen and stuff like that, bouncing back and forth. I think in the true moments when it was, 3rd and 1, 4th and 1, those kind of like game-changing moments, it did feel real. But no, it was humming in there pretty good in the 4th. In the end, they were bouncing around. But like I said, if we have to go back down there and play them, I think they'll be ready, and they have to go through losses. It's going to happen. They need it as a team to grow. You learn a lot from losses, so I'm not worried about that.
Yeah, got it. Doe Soldier says Justin Fields throughout his entire career, NFL his NFL career has 26 touchdowns to 24 interceptions. Woo! Hot booty right there. Hot booty. And then, of course, R. Showers in the chat says Joe Barry hits the dock 65% of the time.
65%.
65%. That's what we
Oh
I'll tell
man.
you what, man, the hate for Joe Barry runs deep, man. I've been in, I don't want to say arguments all day on Twitter, but I have been tagged 500 times on Twitter today. And it's just, everybody's accusing this of being Joe Barry's burner YouTube account, that he's behind this whole thing, leading the charge. I'm just,
It's like just because you don't eviscerate him every chance you get, it's like you're a Joe Barry apologist or Joe Barry defender or something. It's like we have never once ever took that position. We've always said that it can't just be Joe
Exactly.
Barry.
Exactly.
Yeah.
That's what I pointed out on Twitter today. And I know our Showers isn't saying that. And of course, we're never going to pass up an opportunity to hit that Mark Murphy 65%. There's no doubt about that. But yeah, that's the thing I'm pointing out, is like, I'm nowhere will you ever hear me say Joe Barry's a good coordinator. I've never said that. Now, when people talk about firing him, okay, let's go look at the tape. I just don't see it. I'm seeing players drop interceptions. I'm seeing players lose contain. And now I could just jump in, and there's plenty of other podcasters that do that, and they want to pile on and make funny memes and all that stuff and get their clicks. That's cool. We're not here for clicks. We're here to watch the tape. If you see it, you got to say it. It's just the way it is. That's the way I view it anyway. And I understand that's boring. I get it. But still, I appreciate you guys hanging out with us while we're being boring, for sure. Let's see here. Hit this one real quick. We'll talk about offense. We'll get out of here. Milio, we appreciate you hanging out, man. This is good stuff. Our Shower says, I'm with Paul. We have 3 guys in Jair, Clark, and Rashawn who all have early issues. Not that they suck, but you got to have a tight game every game to be the call-out guy. We lack that. Yeah, they have struggled. Jair, this last game, man, I would not have been surprised if he graded out in the 40s. And when he came out at 55, I'm like, yeah, that's probably right. I'll probably being a little bit emotional thinking he would grade out in the 40s. There were some people that were surprised, like, how did Jair grade that low? There's no way he's that bad. Listen, those grades, they don't care what you've done in the past. It's specifically, what have you done this game, right? And I think that's what I like about it, just a game-by-game type thing. Let's hit on the offense real quick, and we'll get out of here. This is the Packers 11 personnel matched up against, well, let me go back to the defense real quick, because we didn't hit on our strengths on defense. When you looked at our strengths on defense, Rasul Douglas right now, hands down, been the best corner, 75.3. Jair Alexander, 62.5. Keyshawn Nixon, 56.7. You hit the nail on the head, Tim. That's the matchup right there for them. That's what I would be trying to exploit if it was me. There's no doubt about that. Rashawn Gary, 76.0. So, it's not panic time yet. Just a bad game. I think he'll bounce back. Preston Smith, 73.1. Kenny Clark, 69.2. Devontae Wyatt, 61.0. Of course, TJ Slayton will probably be playing that nose, that second defensive lineman next to Kenny more than Wyatt. Wyatt is having a rough start. There's no denying that. Of course, we talked about Quay Walker, 88.8. Devondre Campbell, 71.2. Not bad. Savage, 61.8. About 20 points higher than he was last year. That's a good sign. Rudy Ford, Tim, we talked about it, buddy. 52.0, man. It's struggle bus this year for Rudy Ford.
Give me Anthony Johnson Jr.
Yeah,
Please.
hey, why not, man? Why not? Carrington in the slot, Anthony Johnson Jr. at free safety. Let's see what we got. Worst thing.
And we're not saying every down. We're just saying pepper these guys in, please.
Yeah. And
Everybody.
Go ahead. I'm sorry.
No, I was just saying everybody else is young. Might as well give them a shot.
Exactly. This is the time to do it, right? This is the time to do it if you're going to do it. There's no doubt about it. All right, let's hit off.
The only other thing before you go, what is your take on us seeing our first Wildcat with Taysom Hill?
Ooh, that's a great question, boy. That sounds like disaster with our run defense, doesn't it?
that was my take when I was watching them against the Panthers. I caught a little bit of the Monday night game. It was he runs it hard and downhill, and it looks like something they're going to need to hit the tape and study a little bit this week.
Yeah, I need to do that. Matter of fact, I'm behind the 8 ball already. I need to put on the Saints tape from that game last night and kind of see how they attack. that Wildcat 10, that makes me a little bit shaky, man. I wonder how they'll approach that. We did show
I
a
just
four-man.
buy him every time he's on the field.
We showed a little a set there when they got inside the 5, Emilio. We went to a essentially a 4-3 defense, but we showed a 6-man front. So it's kind of that goal line look there.
Right.
They were, now, don't get me wrong, they scored a touchdown, but maybe you get something like that if they try to come out in the Wildcat. But Taysom Hill can spin that thing too. He's a horrible quarterback.
Yeah, that is true.
Yeah. I think the answer is the one that no one wants to hear because I'm the most boring football fan ever. Stay in your zone match, load the box with a spinner 3, but you make sure you're keeping at least 3 up top, play it safe, make them use every inch of the field, let them make the mistake, and let's win that turnover differential. It's just wild that we won the turnover differential and the middle 8 last week and lost by a point. That, like I said, it's the first game. So that would have been the 20th game that I watched and kept up with that. And that's the first time in 19 or 20 games that the team that won both of those lost the game, which is just wild. But like I've told you guys before, it's like a 93, 94% chance that team wins if they win both of those categories. But pretty wild stuff for sure. Let's move to offense real quick, and then we'll roll. So this is the Packers 11 personnel here. They're projecting Rasheed Walker at left tackle. Of course, I think we would all say there's a good chance that David Bakhtiari will play left tackle. If that's the case, it's going to come down to Royce Newman or Rasheed Walker at left guard. We kind of talked about that earlier. Josh Myers, this is no surprise, 53.1. John Runyon, 60.3. Zach Tom, 75.7. Of course, we all know it goes without saying these are the overall grades. They're going to have much better pass blocking grades, but like Mike Wall said, we kind of feel like they're asking the offensive linemen to do too much in the run blocking game. But again, that's how that lays out. On their defensive side of the ball, when you look at our offensive line versus their defensive lineman, you got Granderson, the 7th highest rated graded edge defender in the league at 89.9. You've got Capassin, I think is how you say his name, 65.3 in the middle. Brissy, 63.2. And then, of course, Cam Jordan, always a stud at left end at 80.7. That front looking pretty mean. Let's go to our receivers. Romeo Dobbs, 74.1. As it is right now, Dontavian Wicks, 61.1. We're hoping we'll have Christian Watson back. I think we will personally, because was that you, Emilio, or was that someone else that said they noticed Christian Watson on the sideline and he looked pissed off that he wasn't playing? Was that you or was that someone else?
I didn't say that, but he did. Even in pregame warmups, he looked like he was ready to play. I mean, he was out there catching everything, jogging around. He was ready, it seemed.
Yeah, that makes sense. He wants to get out there. And of course, we know the Packers training staff, they're extremely conservative when it comes to that. But the one I wanted to point out in the slot there, and he plays flyer. He can play any wide receiver position. Jaden Reed, 75.1. Tim, what a pleasant surprise, man. We've talked about it. It's exciting, isn't it?
Yeah. I mean, he doesn't play like a rookie. He doesn't carry himself like a rookie. He's going to have a great career. I mean, if anyone doesn't see that, they're not watching football. I mean, Jaden Reed, and like you, to your point, Clayton, I think you hit the nail on the head when you said, he's not an exclusive slot guy. We tend to want, just because of his body type and his, size and that kind of thing, we want to say he's a slot. I mean, you're right. I'll play him, split out all day. And, as we've seen, we can run him with the, jet sweeps and jet motion. So, I mean, really having Reed is especially nice when we have been down Watson, because he brings that, especially without Aaron Jones as well. You lose dynamic playmakers like that. It's nice to have another one ready to roll that's versatile enough to run some of those different plays. So, yeah, Jaden Reed is, man, another guy. It's going to be fun to watch this year.
Yeah, no doubt about it. So when you look at the wide receivers matched up, if you insert Christian Watson, you feel a whole lot better. Although Tay Wicks, that touchdown catch and run, man, that was a lot of fun to watch. We broke that down on Chalk Talk it was a little switch slot cross concept. Really cool. First time I've ever seen Matt LaFleur run that. I thought it was a really neat design, kind of kept the defense on their heels. And of course, Tay Wicks, breaking tackles and dragging defenders to do what he had to do to get in the end zone. When you look at the wide receivers, though, if you inserted Christian Watson, you got Dobbs at 74.1, Jaden Reed is 75.1. Christian Watson's grade last year was in the upper 70s, I think 76, 77-ish. Their cornerbacks, they got one of the best. He's the highest grade cornerback in the entire league right now in Lattimore at 87.9. On the other boundary, you've got Adebo at 54.5. And then in the slot, they've got their slot defender there, Taylor, 45.3. So it kind of looks like you want to attack the slot. I don't know much about them without watching the tape, whether they play primarily zone or man. I know what they used to run way back in the day when Sean Payton was there. They loved dime packages. They loved leaning on faster personnel over heavier personnel. So maybe this is a game we try to run the rock, especially if Aaron Jones is healthy. But at linebacker, they're looking good too. They got Davis in the middle, 89.7. Werner at 76.1. They got, of course, the Honey Badger back there at strong safety, 71.4. And then May at 60.1 at free safety. Just on the surface here, when you look at the matchups, it kind of feels like their defense matches up pretty good with our offense. But again, I think the way to attack them is probably with your playmakers. They're Jaden Reed, Christian Watson. If you have Christian Watson on the field and you get him matched up against Adebo and they're doing anything other than playing too high shell, you should be able to take some shots over the top or at least give that look to kind of soften that box. Whoever Lattimore's on, probably a good idea for Jay Love just to stay away from him. Wouldn't you say there, Emilio?
Yeah, I would think so. I think Love would be happy, to get his deep threat back. Not like anyone else can't do it, though. I mean, like I said, I texted you. I said, watching that trick play open up, first snap, it was pretty wild. Wicks, he's got moves. He got down there. And he tackled him just to be safe because that was going to be a house call, I think. But it's Jay Love's smart. It's just some of those deep balls they came off his hand a little. Or the spiral wasn't super tight. Some of them are a little wobbly, and then just seemed a smidge off. But like you said, that 55%'s got to come up. But he's got great balls, and he's putting it in the right areas. They just need to be tightened up.
Yeah, definitely. Mike Hebry in the chat, thank you for the super chat. He said, don't forget, Jordan Love hasn't played at home yet. Man, that's exciting, dude. Him running out of that tunnel, Tim, for the first time. Whoo, it's going to be good, right?
Mm-hmm. He's going to get the full gamut. This is going to be great because, he got a little taster in the preseason, which I'm sure he loved. But and of course, there'll be a lot of firsts this year that we'll talk about. But Jay Money is so smooth, man. He's not going to be caught like a deer in headlights at all. I think he's going to embrace this moment. The fans are going to embrace him. If anything, we could see another one of these 3 to 5 tutty type performances. So I'm looking forward to Sunday.
Yeah, what's crazy when we were doing Chalk Talk earlier too, if you took away that fourth quarter, I know that sounds silly. I know we can't do that, and we're kind of thinking extremely positive here. But when me and Jacob were looking, he pointed out the stats before that fourth quarter, and J-Lo was like 12 of 15. Like he was on point. And then the fourth quarter happened, and it was just incompletion, right? But he didn't look rattled. It's just if it could go wrong, it went wrong. There's just no two ways about it. But thank you so much for the super chat, Mike. We're excited about seeing that, man. And I think, like Andy mentioned, that there's only been 11 passes he's thrown at Lambeau. Of course, this will be his first start, as a starting quarterback coming out of that tunnel at Lambeau Field. So I like what AJJ is saying here. Run at Lattimore. His weakness is rush D. All right, I'll see what you're saying there. Let's see here. I think that's pretty much it. I think we're going to wrap up right there. Emilio, this was a pleasant surprise having you hop on, man. We need to do this more often. It's a lot of fun.
Definitely.
Yeah, appreciate you. Appreciate you getting in here. And again, we want to thank our sponsor, Old Southern Barbecue. Appreciate them supporting the show.
Capital E, capital N, Packernet 15.
I love it. You're always correcting it in the chat too. Like yesterday, I completely forgot it. I got people in the chat. Hey guys, make sure you get that discount, dude. Yeah. So good stuff. All right, let's get out of here. Tim, you got any parting thoughts?
Real quick, can you pull up that last screen before we get out of here? You had our offense.
Oh yeah.
And our defense. I take a look, and it really reminds me of what they just dealt with in Atlanta when we look at their edge guys. I mean, Granderson and Cam Jordan, I mean, are going to eat your lunch all day if you're getting too fancy on that offensive line. So to Mike's point, they got to simplify because we saw, what was it, Calais Campbell and his name slips my mind now, from Atlanta.
Onyemata.
Yeah, those guys were
Grady,
just.
and was it?
Grady Jarrett. Yeah, Grady Jarrett. That's what I'm thinking of. So this is almost like that all over again. So
right.
Our offensive line is whoever it is out there. Guys got to be on their tippy toes for real, because that could be a problem for us.
Yeah, definitely. Emilio, you got any parting thoughts, bro?
Like I said, the run game needs to sharpen up. We need to make it, a little bit simpler. Let's just smack a couple heads across and see. It doesn't have to be every play. Let's just see what happens. But Matt LaFleur's going to be excited for a homecoming. We've got him through a win, through a loss, on the road both times, and I think being at home, being ready to go this week, and then onto a short week right for Thursday night. So we got a lot of football coming up in a short time. So he's got to get him ready.
Definitely. It's here, man. It is upon us. We are in the battle. There's no doubt about it. One thing that kind of comes to mind to me, and we'll wrap up with this, what you were talking about with the edges there, Tim, maybe, one of the things that he talked about is allowing some more double teams in the running game, he being Mike Wall. Let's pound that thing in the A gap, man. Use some double teams on the edge, take advantage of the fact that their interior is, according to PFF, seems to be soft. Again, that doesn't mean they are, but that's kind of on the surface what it looks like. So pound the ball in the rock, pound the rock in between the A gaps there, A and B gaps. Run a little play action, take advantage of that slot, and see if we can come away with some explosives. But I think it's going to be fun,
especially
man.
with AJ Dillon. If right. Dillon's going to carry the ball, I mean that's what he does. That sounds like something that might play to his strengths.
Right. What's wrong with the 21-20 ISO? Just go straight ahead. That's why I love Dillon in pistol, because he can step downhill immediately. Like, he does all right in sidecar, but every time I saw him in pistol, he felt comfortable because he's coming downhill. I don't care if he's back, stack, whatever.
Yep.
He did it at Boston College. That's why we drafted him.
Exactly. Yep. Hey, this is what he does well. Let's don't do that anymore. What? but what do we know, though, right? We're just three morons that love the Packers, so it is what it is. All right, we're going to get out of here. I want to thank everybody in the chat. Thank you all for the birthday wishes. Really appreciate it. Mandy, thank you for spilling the beans, making me feel awkward. I'm sure my face turned red. I do not handle stuff like that well. But and Emilio, of course, they tag teamed it there. So appreciate you, buddy.
Sorry about that. I'm a man. I'm 40.
Exactly. Let's hit it one time. I know I got it here.
I'm a man. I'm
40. I'm actually 41. So there you go.
There we go.
It still applies. But all right. Appreciate everybody in the chat. You guys are awesome. For those of you listening on the pod, thank you for making us a part of your day. As always, let's go out and be the change we want to see in the world, and go Pack Go.
The power sweep. Actually, it's the lead play in our offense.
Double tackle, take the defensive end if he's over him. If he's not, you drive down the first man who is inside. Pull back and kill him. Take the first man outside the offensive tackle. No one goes. Go right by them and field inside. If the YN has the linebacker taken out, he cuts inside. If the YN has the linebacker in, he comes all the way around. So look at this play. What we're trying to get is a seal here and a seal here, and try to run this play in the alley.